Hello, folks. Welcome to the Crime Dawg podcast. I'm your host, Johnny FIORICA. Retired detective with the Rochester, New York Police Department. After serving 30 years, I worked uniform patrol, undercover narcotics, street investigations. I was a hostage negotiator for over 20 years, closing out my career with the fine men and women of the ATF. That's alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, where our main focus was violence and gun trafficking throughout these United States of America. Sitting alongside me, my trusted co-host, as usual, 20-plus year veteran, Rochester, New York Police Department, legendary street cop, undercover cop, SWAT team member, homicide detective, David SIMPSON. Welcome to the podcast.
As always, Johnny, happy to be here, buddy.
Since 1922, State Farm has been working hard to help better protect you and those you love. We've always taken a future-forward approach to developing or offering products and solutions to meet your ever-changing needs. That's truer today than ever before. At the Christopher Marmo Agency, we're in the business of helping. We will work with you to create your personal price plan to help select the best possible coverage on your auto, home, and life insurance. Bundle and save with State Farm. Call Christopher Marmo today at 585-247-1462. That's 585-247-1462. So, David, we wanted to do a quick pod today relative to the upcoming election and the goings-ons in America, because obviously this is one of the biggest elections, I think, really kind of comparable to 2016 when Trump ran against Hillary. Everyone thought it was going to be a landslide victory by Hillary. It obviously was not. Trump got victorious, and now they're saying that this is just as big, if not bigger, with Trump versus Kamala. We said it all along, and we've been saying it forever. Vote policies, not people. Don't get caught up on voting a certain way because you got your feelings hurt or you don't like the way someone says something. You should always vote for whomever you think is the best candidate for your lifestyle and your family. Correct, David?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is you got to vote. I mean, too many people don't get out and vote. And, the Republican side is kind of notorious for that lately. You got to get out. Your vote's important, even if you're not, even in New York, people say, oh, it doesn't matter. It's a Dem-controlled state. Yeah. Nationally, our vote doesn't matter. It does matter. Everyone needs to get out and vote. But then secondary to that, you really have to just simply write down on a legal pad the pros and cons of each candidate as it relates to you. What are you for? What are you against? If you're for, the police and for crime being reduced and that, the Dems have done a bad job on that, then clearly you should be voting Republican. If you're for closing the borders, same thing. Any of the, you want taxes to remain the same or be lower, it's Republican. If there's other issues like on the women's side of things, or I don't even know, but I guess you would vote the other side. But so it's policy over people is what we always say.
Yeah, 100%. And obviously, we're not trying to sound like politicians. If those things that David listed out are what you believe in, the things that Kamala preaches, then vote for her. You have your God-given right to vote for whomever you choose. So, David, some are saying that this is too big to rig. I don't like that term, too big to rig. They're saying, which is true, people are going out in record numbers, especially the Republicans. Republicans have traditionally never done early voting. It's always been the Democrats. Polling shows that the Republicans are way out ahead in just about every state relative to the early voting versus the Democrats. I don't like using it, make it too big to rig, because I feel like when you use terms like that, I think sometimes people are like, oh, if everyone else is voting, what did my vote? Doesn't matter. My vote doesn't matter. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. However, the rig part is what I want to focus on today for 1 second. Danny, roll the clip.
Does this election turn out to be too big to rig? That's what everyone's waiting to find out. Have you seen this video that's coming out of Pennsylvania? It shows long lines of voters waiting to vote. You've heard about this, right? People waiting 2, 3, 4 hours at a time. And then all of a sudden, it looks like a bus of non-citizens rolls up, gets to skip the line, go straight to the front, and then they're being told who to vote for. Here's some of that video.
No, they had these people, they had about 12 of them walk in, they were all foreigners, and then they took them up, these younger people helped them to fill out, they say vote PA today,
yep.
And then they took them up, and somehow they beat a 2-hour line, and then they walked up, and the one lady, they were even asking her, they're like, we don't have you in the system, your name's not right. And they're like, oh, well, we'll take it back and change it.
Yeah.
How do you change your damn name?
You know, I think what's happening with this election is going to be so monumental for the country because you really have an incredible surge of people who are showing up, coming out to vote for Trump. The Republican early voting is unprecedented. We haven't seen anything like this ever in history. I don't think it's a question of enthusiasm. It's not a question of whether or not Trump has enough people who want to see him win. It's a question of whether or not the numbers can be manipulated in enough states to keep that from happening.
David, that's unbelievable. I mean, okay, it's been out for a couple days. Multiple sources have shown that clip. It was a gentleman getting interviewed after he voted in Pennsylvania. As we all know, Pennsylvania is one of the swing states. And for those that don't know what a swing state is, it's a state that can go either way in either direction, Republican or Democrat, depending on the election. What that clip basically was talking about was a guy was saying, hey, there was a busload of illegal immigrants getting bussed in and they were getting asked to vote. This befuddles me, David. I'm thinking this video is 100% true. I've seen it on multiple different platforms, on TikTok, on Instagram, on the Twits. I've seen it on the Googles. I've seen it in national media. I mean, is this bizarro world? They literally are getting what they wish for, right?
Well, it is bizarro world, but not really, because if we go back to the last election when, you know, there was a suppression of the laptop information before the election, and there was, you know, some collusion with social media to make sure certain messages got out for certain parties and didn't get on into others. You know, those are also rig jobs.
Yeah.
Those are the way the Democratic Party won the election. You know, those definitely played a part. So it doesn't surprise me if this is being done at all.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is this is just another card in the game of euchre. And I always say, man, they always hold the trump cards, the Democrats. Nationally, the Democrats are the smartest, dumbest people I've ever seen, or you could reverse that, the dumbest, smartest people. They play the long game. I call it the long game. The long game, what I mean by that is the indoctrination of our children in elementary school, in high school, and college, mainstream media, the indoctrination that they do, spitting out their vitriol, their rhetoric since the 70s, social media, Hollywood with movies and television. I mean, at the end of the day, what it comes down to is they have infiltrated all those parts of our culture to influence elections. And now this is just another way of them doing it.
I always say and I kind of mean this in a complimentary way, they're ruthless. Democrats are ruthless politically, and they will get right to the line and sometimes dance over it to win. And we've seen them do it, and nothing surprised me. If you don't think that this border stuff with these individuals ending up in swing states and stuff like that isn't in the game plan, then you're delusional, because it 100% is played into how they're going to play the long game, especially if they win this election.
Yeah, it's totally devious. It's totally calculating. I mean, when I saw them pouring in, however, 3+ years ago, in my little small brain, I never would have dreamed that was what their goal was. But that's how calculating, and like I said, the Dems nationally are the smartest, dumbest people I've ever met, because to have that calculating plan to bring these illegals into the country and just right in front of everyone's faces have them vote, it's going to be one for the ages. I mean, we saw Glenn Youngkin, the governor of Virginia, where he had literally said, we have people on our voter rolls that are saying, by the way, we're not legal citizens. So he was like doing the old timeout, like, whoa, what's going on here? It's ridiculous. I also saw on Twitter last night, I was watching it. It showed in one state, I forgot where it was. I don't know if it was Pennsylvania or not, where one or the same ID was used like 50 times to vote. Again, I always say with caution, right, David? We always say with caution. I pretty sure, because I've seen it in multiple different media realms, whether it's local, mainstream, or on social media, that little picture of the same ID being used. I mean, it's crazy. It's ridiculous. You know, you got Portland, Oregon. They had several of their early voting mailboxes destroyed with some type of incendiary device. I want to show you this, David. Roll the clip.
The FBI says it is investigating fires at 2 ballot drop boxes early today in Portland, Oregon and Vancouver, Washington. Laura Jarrett is following this. Laura, do authorities think these are related?
Yes, Lester. Authorities do believe these 2 fires are intentional and connected, as the same car was spotted at both locations today, as well as another incident earlier this month in Vancouver. The first fire today in Portland, Oregon, reported at around 3:30 this morning after someone attached an incendiary device to the side of a ballot drop box there. But the county election office says, quote, fire suppressant protected virtually all of the ballots there. Only 3 were damaged. Voters were contacted. But then, roughly 30 minutes later, police responding to another fire at a ballot box less than 10 miles to the north in Vancouver, Washington. Potentially hundreds of ballots there affected, according to officials. Now, the FBI is investigating tonight, but has not provided any indication of a motive. Voters can contact Clark County to confirm if their ballot was received and request a replacement ballot if necessary, Lester.
Okay, Laura, thank you for that.
David, is that unbelievable? I mean, now what we're seeing is we kind of know Portland kind of leans left and goes Democrat. We know what the hell went on during the riots of 2020. But even still, you had somebody who had the wherewithal to say, you know what, your vote don't count. Now, listen, I may not agree with you who you vote for, but I'm not going to ever stop your right to vote. I'm never going to put my arm in front of you, or I'm never going to try to fight you because of what your thoughts, your beliefs are. I mean, you have people now in Portland, Oregon. I'm almost positive it was multiple mailboxes. These voting, they're specifically built for early voters to drop off your ballot inside, and they were blown up, and multiple ballots have been destroyed. Like I said, I guess the only good thing for the Republican Party is Portland usually leans Dem, but who knows what district in Portland that happened, and I'm not sure. But again, David, this is what crazy does.
Well, you also have to go to the top of the party and say that most policies they make are for the benefit of holding power in the long game, not necessarily for the benefit of the American people.
Right.
The border situation is a perfect example of that. They're built to last, to stay in power, and if they will, unfortunately, in my opinion, hurt the American public in America, if it means they can hold power. And that trickles down to people that are deeply passionate about that party, doing things that they determine to be whatever it takes to have their party win, whether it be burning mailboxes, assassination attempts, whatever it might be. There are no rules, because starting at the top, it's about holding power.
Whether you're a runner, want to be a runner, a walker, or someone who stands all day, Fleet Feet is your fitting experts in running and walking. For footwear, accessories, apparel, and even training programs for beginners, advanced runners, or walkers. Alongside their sister company, Yellow Jacket Racing, Fleet Feet offers an array of family-friendly events from 5K to half marathons to kids races on trails or roads. Fleet Feet is your premier running and walking specialty store, with 2 locations in Rochester and 1 in Buffalo. Check them out. FleetFeet.com. That's FleetFeet.com. Yeah, and it's so funny that you said that. It wasn't even on our outline today, but I just want to talk about those assassinations attempts. I have never seen an assassination attempt singularly, and then multiple attempts, plural, happen to a former sitting president, with the lack of outcry and it just getting washed away in the media. I know this happened on a weekend. The first assassination attempt happened on a weekend. Then all of a sudden, by Monday, it was almost washed out of the media. And that those 2 crazies, the husband and wife, was it Minka and Joe from MSNBC? They literally got called off the air on Monday because MSNBC didn't trust them to what was going to come out of their mouths, the vitriol and the negativity. And they're like, we can't risk it. So they had him off the air. But it's amazing. We had a sitting president, or a former sitting president, get almost killed.
He got shot. He got shot.
Get almost killed by a high-powered rifle.
The one was like, the guy was in a position, to take a shot. He actually got shot.
Yeah. And then you had him being on his own golf course, getting almost shot again. It is ridiculous. And I can't believe how they just washed that out of the media. But I'll tell you right now, if it was Barack Obama, they'd still be talking about it. If it was baby Barack, God's child, you know what I mean? Listen, first of all, I'm not a fan of Barack, okay? But he was our president. When we go to all the parts, he's our president.
Absolutely.
He was my president. I don't want to see him get shot either. But that being said, if it was, beautiful baby Barack Obama, this would still be in the news media. God's darling Barack Obama, they'd still be talking about it.
Well, again, because they want to hold power. And if, God forbid, something did happen to him,
right?
Guess what?
Yeah,
we feel terrible about it, but we win.
Yeah.
Don't think for a second that they don't say, we feel terrible about it, in the back of their minds are not like, right, that would have worked out well for us.
David, the only thing I want to end this with is this: regardless of who you vote for, or like my wife says, irregardless, which is now in the dictionary, irregardless of who you vote for, shout out to Pamtastic, please don't melt down, okay? Please don't melt down. It's going to be okay. We still live in America, land of the free, home of the brave. So don't have a meltdown, okay? Either side, all right? And depending on who you voted for, it's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. You're going to wake up. You're going to breathe clean air. It's going to be okay. However, one thing I do want to point out, let me to do what they used to say when in the areas that we worked, let me spit some knowledge on you, David. Don't melt down like the 2020 riots when you didn't get your way, or on the other side, don't melt down like the January 6th, because let me do comparisons. Let me do a compare and contrast between the 2020 riots of BLM and January 6th, okay? So January 6th lasted a couple hours. The BLM riots lasted several months. January 6th had 0 murders. BLM riots from 2020, 20-plus murders. No small businesses were burned or destroyed during the January 6th protests. Hundreds of small businesses during the BLM riots were destroyed. 1 federal building was damaged during the January 6th storming of the Capitol. 150-plus federal buildings were damaged during the BLM riots. 1.5 million, with an M, was in damage during the January 6th riots there. 1 to 2 billion, with a B, was the damage during the BLM riots. 140 officers were assaulted during January 6th. 2,037 officers were assaulted during the BLM riots. Protesters were kept in solitary confinement after they were arrested during January 6th. Guess what, folks? BLM riots, they were bailed out. They were encouraged during January 6th by political groups and agitators. Who encouraged BLM rioters? The media and the politicians. So this was exaggerated by the media January 6th. The BLM riots were downplayed by the media. January 6th was a national outrage, according to national media. BLM riots was what they call a national encouragement. Folks, that is exactly the compare and contrast. Whatever side you're on, keep those little baby stats in your mind, okay? David, you want to address anything that I just said? How do you want to close this baby out?
Well, again, I say it all the time. The mainstream media is not your friend. Don't believe it. It is totally skewed. They're just a propaganda arm of the Democratic Party. Good for the party for playing, like we say, the long game and cultivating that relationship. But you see it time and time again. If you think you're getting a fair shake on the state of the country and the state of politics and all that from mainstream media, you're nuts. And that's why, whether it be the Crime Dawg podcast or, another podcast or, alternative forms of media, you better explore that, because that's the only way you're going to get a shot down the middle.
No doubt about it. Way to say it. Way to wrap this up. Very well said, David.
A&L Painting, your kitchen cabinet painting specialist. We also offer a full portfolio of interior painting, exterior painting, and staining. Matt and his crew at A&L Painting are professional and reliable. They're the only painters that the Crime Dawg staff and our law enforcement partners trust to work at our homes. Call A&L Painting today at 585-478-4623. That's 585-478-4623.
Folks, you can find us on our YouTube channel at Crime Dawg Podcast. Once you're there, we would love it if you would hit the like and subscribe button. We will automatically send you an alert with our latest episodes. or you can check us out on our website, thecrimedogpodcast.com, where we have a library of our videos, and we also have a cool merch site. However, this is the first time we're talking about it. If you can't get enough of us, you can listen to us on our weekly radio show every Saturday afternoon from noon to 1. You can hear mine and David's beautiful voices talking to you from the WAM studios with iHeartRadio. It's called the Crime Dawg Live Show. And like I said, it's on iHeartMedia, WAM 1180 if you're in Rochester. Yes, it's called a live show for a reason. We take live unscreened calls every week. Like I said, every Saturday, noon to 1. Listen to us there. Folks, thanks for listening to the Crime Dawg Podcast. We hope you stick with us for future episodes. But like my brother-in-law, Frankie Grassi, says, if you can't make it, who cares?